Ladies and gentlemen, the session is about to begin. Please take your seats.
اهلا وسهلا فيك يا مرحبا طيبه.
They ate into my time.
عمر طويل قالوا لك شيلين اوراق.
Yes.
عادي شو يعني هاي اوراقنا الريسايكل بين.
Yeah, we'll sign. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our panel. Today's discussion is on accelerating net zero. There you go. Thank you. And the role of the private and the public sector in the UAE. And we'll use the UAE as an example that we can also apply it for the region. Today, we have an amazing lineup of experts with us. They will be talking about achieving or accelerating net zero here in the UAE. We have experts from the private and the public sector. And we have Ibrahim Al-Zabi. He's a Chief Sustainability Officer with ADNOC. Marhaba. Thank you. Dr. Alyazia Al-Kuwaiti. She's the Director of UAE Industries with Mubadala. And we have Mohammed Al-Marzouqi. He's the CEO of HSBC UAE. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us to this afternoon event. So let me introduce our panel first. If I can switch this page. I'm not using paper, so we're net zero already. So Ibrahim Zabi is the Chief Sustainability Officer with ADNOC. In his role, Ibrahim oversees ADNOC Group's sustainability and climate strategy and performance, and also provides strategic directions for its environmental, social, and governance disclosure and reporting. Building on an extensive career in corporate sustainability, he was also Chief Sustainability Officer with one of the largest family business here, Majd Al Futtaim. Ibrahim authored How to Net Positive, a practical guide for companies embarking on their net positive journey. Ibrahim also serves on a number of global sustainability-related boards, including the UN Global Compact's regional network, and is the chairperson of the SDG Global Council for SDG 13. Ibrahim holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from the Jordan University of Science and Technology. Ibrahim, welcome and thank you for joining us. Then we have Dr. Alyazia Ali Al-Kuwaiti, is the Executive Director, UAE Industries within Mubadala's UAE investment platform. In her role, Dr. Alyazia oversees the growth of the UAE's largest industrial companies. These companies specialize in key sectors such as metals, renewables, utilities, energy, and water desalination. Her 15-year tenure at Mubadala has been marked by a consistent record of high performance in various prominent roles, including leading the upstream and integrated investment in petroleum and petrochemical at Mubadala, and the midstream and upstream investments at IPIC. Dr. Alyazia leadership extends to various boards such as CPSA, OMV, the National Central Cooling Company, Tabreed, and the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development. Dr. Alyazia's academic achievement includes a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance from Portobello College in Dublin, a master's degree in international business from the University of Wollongong, Dubai, and a PhD in business administration from the UAE University. Dr. Alyazia, thank you for being here today. And then our third expert, Mohammed Al-Marzouqi, is the Chief Executive Officer from HSBC UAE. Appointed HSBC UAE CEO in May 2023, Mohammed is a career HSBC banker whose wide experience since joining the bank in the UAE in 2002 spans retail, commercials, corporate, and investment banking, encompassing roles that have seen him lead coverages of some of HSBC's most important clients' relationships in the country. Mohammed was most recently head of Global Banking UAE, a role to which he was appointed in 2021, and in which his extensive local and regional knowledge has helped strengthen our strategic relationship across the Emirates, particularly with large corporate clients and government-related entities. Mohammed has been instrumental in the success of HSBC corporate and investment banking franchise in the UAE. During his career, he has originated transactions across products of over $200 billion across various strategic disciplines. Mohammed holds a bachelor's degree in business, majoring in accounting from Higher College of Technology, UAE. Outside of work, Mohammed is a dedicated husband and father of 2 boys and a passionate Real Madrid fan. We're not gonna get along on that one. So in the UAE in 2021 announced the net zero strategy nationwide. And it was just before COP26 at Glasgow. It was the first country in the GCC to announce such a pledge or a commitment. And recently, like not even a couple of weeks ago, Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mahiri, Minister of Climate Change and Environment, announced the 2050 Net Zero National Strategy. I believe it's the first in the region that we have a strategy for net zero by 2050. It's a challenging and ambitious pathway, but at least we have a roadmap that we can build on. At the heart of the ambitious UAE net zero strategy are more than 25 programs covering 6 sectors, including power, industry, transport, buildings, waste, and agriculture. Across all these sectors, the initiatives will focus on improving efficiency and increasing the deployment of renewable energy sources. The focus will also be increasing the percentage of clean energy raising consumption efficiency and switching to sustainable transportation system and green buildings, in addition to using natural-based solutions and carbon capture technologies. The strategy has also set emissions reduction targets for different sectors. And that's why today we have 3 experts from different sectors, from the private and the public sector. So I'll start with Ibrahim, as he leads ADNOC in terms of sustainability, and it's energy is one of the main focus in terms of net zero. We saw that ADNOC has recently announced that it intends to reach net zero by 2045. And like as soon as Saturday, over 50 companies from the oil and gas industry also announced their pledge to go net zero by 2050. So how is ADNOC reducing emissions to achieve this goal?
Thank you, Joe, and it's a pleasure to be next to Dr. Diazi and a fellow Real Madrid fan. So Barca fans, don't hate us, please. And I would like to thank everyone who stayed till the end of the day to listen to us, and I really hope that between the 3 of us and you, Joe, we can bring value to the time you invested to listen to us. So from an ADNOC perspective, we look at how we can be a reliable and part of the UAE commitment, reliable to our customers, reliable to our nation, but most importantly, how we can do our job in the most sustainable way. We are part of the UAE economy, community, and they get committed to net zero by 2050. So the commitment actually was there even before we announced it as a UAE or as an ADNOC. But I think what ADNOC take the extra notch there is how we can achieve the commitment. We've seen, as you said, lots of countries and companies committed to net zero, but since then we were looking on the how, and I believe everyone agrees that the how is as important as is the commitment, because it's a journey to achieve a net zero by 2050, in our case 2045. So we looked at different stages. We have short-term target, long-term targets. Our short-term is by 2030, 25% on our carbon intensity, but also look how we can transform our business, transform the industry, and while we're transforming, decarbonize our operations, which means make it part of the DNA of the way we run our business. But most importantly, when you talk about a net zero, this transformation needs to ensure that we future-proof the company and the country. So we do this through different initiatives we have on the ground. The first one, we have the vision, we have the leadership support, the leadership of the country, the leadership of ADNOC. We are all in this together to be net zero by 2045 or 2050. The second part is we engaged on the spot with our staff. We have a huge workforce, and a human element is a main part of this. So we went into upskilling and reskilling program into how to get the technical knowledge. And the technical knowledge led to on the spot initiatives such as electrification of our assets, raising our investments in renewables, looking at removing emissions from our operation from the atmosphere through the carbon capture, direct air capture. So all these operations now, technical operations, upskilling, reskilling, human capital, leadership support, you need the money, you need the fund. So to ensure that it is part of the DNA, these operations need a clear projects and fund. So we had an initial investment and support to achieve the first phase by $15 billion. Part of it now will raise our renewable energy through Masdar from, as we speak, to around 24 giga to 100 giga by 2030, doubling our carbon capture utilization storage from 5 million to 10 million, hydrogen 1 million, and look at even investing in the low carbon hydrogen. But most importantly, we are all in this transition journey together. And in this transition journey, as everyone agrees that we need energy so to achieve the targets we want to achieve by 2045 or 2050. So to achieve that, we ensured the energy we use right now is one of the lowest carbon. And we're talking about 7 kilograms per barrel of oil equivalent, where you find in some cases up to 40 and 60 in some other countries. So it's one of the lowest in the world. So we ensured that our energy is the lowest carbon. We invested in renewables. We ensured that the operations to remove emissions from is there. We invested in new energies, such as I said, the blue ammonia, green hydrogen, which, by the way, opened new markets. We started exporting such energy resources to Asia and Europe. So we looked at the economic part of it as well. Again, transformation, decarbonization, and future-proofing. So it should make financial sense eventually. But the most important point I would like, and I'll wrap up the answer to this question with, is the human element. Upskilling and reskilling our Emirati, our workforce as a phase one was important. And we did not stop there. We went to the supply chain because we know we cannot do this on our own. We have a huge supply chain. We started to invest in a sustainable transformation on sustainable procurement and sustainable supply chain for all our supply chain to ensure that we can achieve this together and they can achieve as well their targets, which will eventually lead into UAE achieving its target.
Great. So I heard leadership in terms of making the decision. So it's feasible in terms of how to achieve net zero in operations. Investment, because it takes money to shift all the operations into efficient and zero. And then human capital. Also, that is an investment that needs to be done in human capital. So all these are it's a multi-party involvement.
And definitely, if I may add,
yeah.
And the glue in all of this, by the way, so when I say human capital, I don't want people to think that technological innovation is on top of that with a human element. Technological innovation is the main enabler to achieve this, is the main enabler. You talked about nature-based solution. Let me share a story. I'm sorry, I said I'm going to wrap up, sorry. But UAE has a commitment, 100 million mangroves, right? 100 million mangroves, carbon sinks. We all agree nature is at the heart of everything we should do, and it is. We as ADNOC, we get committed to do 10 million out of the 100 million. We went after homegrown startups to help us Because we knew we have drones, we use satellites in our methane, zero methane target, we use sensors, we use technology in everything. AI, efficient operation, cost efficiency, as well as you achieve your target. But this story is very close to mine, and I really like it. A homegrown startup, they do drones, and they do 3D printing seedlings growing using drones for mangroves. So we signed with them, and guess what? Success rate of mangroves, exactly the same rate of conventional. 1/10, like if you pay a dirham here in the drones, you pay 10 dirhams in the conventional. So you can double your target if you want triple. But most importantly, scientists, they are helping us to survey, monitor, and ensure that these carbon sinks are really doing well. So technology on top of all of the above.
And I'm going to stop you there, because you're jumping to my next question in terms of what can we do and how we can do it, whether it's technology or nature-based solutions. And then we'll have to explain in the second round for the people that are not from the UAE or from this region. Exactly. So, and I'll go to Dr. Aliazia. So when Her Excellency Al Mahiri announced the Net Zero 2050 strategy for the UAE, she made a call for action by stressing the importance of collaboration between the federal and local government, the private sector, and community in helping the UAE meet its target for different sectors. How does Mubadala model enables the collaboration approach between private and public sector to help achieving net zero targets? How do you use these different connections with different sectors and different parties?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here in the UAE Pavilion, COP28. I'm being invited by Anwar Gargash Academy of Diplomacy. I'm very happy to have you all very patient to the last session of the day and hear all of us. I work for Mubadala. Mubadala is a sovereign wealth fund owned by the government of Abu Dhabi, established 20 years ago. It has assets under management of close to $300 billion US. We have 3 international offices, our headquarters based in Abu Dhabi, and we are responsible investor. This is the buzzword. This is what we've been doing for the last 20 years. We've been ahead of the game. We started by investing in 2001 in Dolphin, which was the sole gas network in the region. And today, gas is considered as the bridging fuel to the energy transition. And then by 2006, we had established Masdar, the leading in renewable energy, a global green energy growing to be a major, with a very strategic ownership between Mubadala, Taqa, and ADNOC, towards achieving 100 gigawatt of capacity by 2030 and deploying $10 billion US of capital towards that target. So yes, Joe, we're very much aligned with the vision, with the target set by the government of UAE towards net zero emissions by 2050. And we've been also working very closely with our partners, as partnership sits with the essence of our model. We've been having local and international partners. For example, one of our subsidiaries is the integrated Spanish oil and gas company, CEPSA, set in Madrid with international portfolio. We managed 2019 to sell around 40% to Carlyle Group, which is a private equity fund based in New York. This has transformed the company entirely over the last 4 or 5 years towards achieving also, the decarbonization agenda by evident, tangible projects which are very close to be FIDs in the Iberian Peninsula. Green hydrogen, biofuels, with also very progressive, let's say, trials of producing SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. And they have managed also to sign some sort of capacity to secure it for Etihad Airways. So do you see how international collaboration works? It's not just private and public sector within UAE, it's internationally. But again, Joe, what I wanted to draw everybody's attention here, it's very important that the tone sits at the top. So it's more of a top-down kind of a tone. So the governing authority in each country has to set the policies and drive them forward, because the private sector by nature is driven by achieving attractive commercial benefits and financial returns. So without setting the right regulatory framework, the right policies, and impose them at least, or we can test them voluntary at the beginning, but by imposing them, eventually this is how we can realize the strategy. And I see a group of 4 let's say, segments, that they should work together. Governments, because they drive policies, then shareholders of large industrial corporations, because they manage substantial amount of wealth, as well as they own and develop technology through their innovative centers, and they have the expertise and the know-how and the international reach. The third group is the financial institutions like Mubadala, HSBC, and others, who providing the capital that enable that transaction to take place. And the fourth group is influencers and youth, because they have a voice. And COP28, I've seen around the largest population, of young people being heard, being actively involved in serious discussions about the future they'll be part of. So I think among this group, that collaboration can become a reality between private and public sector. I will come later to more examples from Mubadala.
Great, thank you. Thank you for highlighting that. And I'll go to Mohammed. Mohammed, we heard in both experts before you, they mentioned money. The capital is needed, and the capital can accelerate the transition. I'll ask you, what is HSBC doing here at COP28? Are you part of this conversation?
Definitely. So thank you very much again for the invitation. Understand that we have members of the Academy, Anwar Gargash Academy, and I learned this new term, climate diplomacy. I need to Google that. So. Well, back to what Ibrahim said about ADNOC and Alyazia, about what they are doing with Mubadala and Mubadala subsidiaries. HSBC's role is quite simple, but complicated. I'll explain. We are actually enablers, right? Our role is to support the progress that a company like ADNOC or Mubadala would like to do here and their journey to net zero. Ibrahim referred to mangroves. We've committed $4 million to the plantation of mangroves over the next 7 years.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Are you doing the plantation, or you're financing somebody else who does the plantation?
That went to the local government, so
okay.
They'll do it through the drones and probably some of the conventional methods that they do have in place. Liazia referred to sustainability framework and all of that. We structured the framework for Mubadala a couple of months back, and we were the lead advisor on their debut issuance under that framework. So this is what we do. We've been, as HSBC, we've committed $750 billion to $1 trillion. That is at the group level to projects within the sustainability world, of which we have already spent or allocated $250 billion. This is between 2020 and 2022. So our role is actually to support the progress of the corporates and the individuals that we deal with. The UAE, for them to achieve the net zero target, they need to increase the investment in the renewable space by 7-fold in order to get there. Ibrahim or Alyazia referred to Masdar. The UAE has a target of 100 gigawatts, right? And for them to get there, is not actually limited to projects within the UAE. Masdar is looking at projects in 70 plus countries, and this is where we can go with Masdar. We support them, from advisory perspective, providing financing that they need, even in places where it might be a little bit difficult to do business at. And this is where the term of, the blended finance comes from. Very committed. Our strategy is very much aligned with the UAE's strategy, and we have no reason to doubt the UAE's ability to achieve that target or its corporates by 2050.
Great. So, and I think this is an example of what Her Excellency Al Mahiri mentioned in terms of collaboration between private and public sector. So you are the enabler, and Mubadala, for example, has the expertise, and then the collaboration of the two can trigger these programs or initiatives to drive clean energy, for example. I'll go back to you, Ibrahim, and you mentioned earlier the mangrove, and I think it keeps coming the example of the mangroves. Can we clarify what the mangrove is and why it's important here for the UAE compared to other trees? And what other examples, like whether it's technology-based or nature-based, we can use?
I can answer that question
Go ahead,
because he took me to this session, biodiversity in Arabic, for which I had to prepare for it for 3 days. Go ahead. Apparently, the mangroves are 3 to 5 times more effective in terms of carbon capture as compared to any other plant on this planet, compared to those in the Amazon. So that's why, and we in the UAE, we are blessed to have them here because they don't grow elsewhere within the GCC.
And we have a harsh climate.
Absolutely. Did I answer the... Yeah,
Did he
thank
pass?
you.
He passes. He passes. Okay. So mangroves are extremely important plants here for the region, in the GCC especially. They grow in this usually they're in the water, right? In salty water.
Tidal areas, yes.
Exactly. And then they survive this plus 50 degrees summer, which is extremely important for us. So that's the example, that's the mangrove. But can you give us examples on how to use technology and like nature-based, I guess it's the mangrove example.
First of all, you talked about biodiversity, and by the way, we're blessed in the UAE that the leadership of the UAE, since we're a young nation, we're 52 years old, but even before inception, in the last 52 years old, our founding father, Sheikh Zayed, put nature in the heart of everything we do. So from the mangroves, which are the carbon sinks, we have the second biggest population of dugongs, by the way, in the world, here in Abu Dhabi. So nature, trees, you talk about natural trees, be it on inland or on the beaches, but seriously, nature is on the heart. But as a young nation also, we're blessed that while we're preparing for the next 50 years, economy as well as technology and AI is at the heart of everything we do. So we had the first world minister in AI from the UAE. So a simple answer to your question, we embed technology as an enabler to achieve our sustainability and economic targets wherever we are. So, and ADNOC is no exception. You go in the UAE, but we do this. So we have, in our case, we use both, by the way, conventional, because we need to engage. Again, I talked about upskilling and reskilling our stakeholders. So we take our employees, their kids, youth, different stakeholders, NGOs, organizations, to plant actually mangroves and teach them about the carbon sink that we have in our backyard, because it's an imperative for us in our operations that we should protect these areas. The second part is, how can I accelerate? And you mentioned the 2045, and we raised the ambition from 2050 to 2045. To raise the ambition and to accelerate, what's better than technology? And by the way, we use technology and the drones, as I've mentioned, for seedlings, to plant, to grow, monitor, survey, as well as go as efficient as we can when implementing nature-based solutions. We implemented in our operations we use satellites, handheld, everything in technology, to sensors, to ensure that we achieve zero methane by 2030. But we do a lot of projects, and again, we have a lot of scientists, by the way, in our teams, and in our operations, be it for flora and fauna, we use the technology to ensure, one, there's a preservation, and the second part, there is an acceleration and enhancement of growth, be it in fauna or flora. But I think what, and we were debating this yesterday, by the way, on the Global Sustainability Forum, and I even asked the question for this global CSOs, the role of technology, especially not the technology we know of, the technology that the next generations are of, the attention span. So we are used to the 30-second span, you know, in the football, you put the advertisement there, then it went down to 15 seconds, maybe 10, and now in TikTok maybe, or 3. Now if you go to YouTube, they put the advertisement, I think 5 seconds. So the attention span of humans is going, so we need to, if you want to raise awareness, for future generations, I need to think of the Fortnite, how can the roadblocks, how can I embed sustainability and conservation, nature protection there? And that's where I see a bigger role of technology, because it is embedded, it's in our in operation. We have a chief technology officer, we have a climate tech challenge actually in pilot, so we implement all these things in there. But I think it's important for us also to look as an outsider for the role of technology for the generations to come.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Dr. Ilyasia, we heard some examples from ADNOC on how they thinking or they're already implementing to drive net zero. How is Mubadala, can you give us some examples on Mubadala's strategy in cooperation or collaboration?
Yes.
To drive this net zero strategy?
You know, I mentioned a couple of, you know, long-lasting investment we had earlier, but I can give you some, you know, headlines. Between 2016 and today, we managed to reduce our hydrocarbon exposure from 25% to 16%. And I think we are on track. I think it's going to go down to a single digit by 2030, which is taking us gradually towards the net zero emission by 2050. So we're doing well there. In terms of how we are also executing the strategy in three dimensions. The first one is about being responsible investor. We had put together a new team called the Responsible Investment Team that basically they make sure that climate change considerations, ESG measures are, you know, taking into account during the entire investment life cycle. This is number one. Number two, also the decarbonization for our operations, our corporate operations, our buildings, you know, the behavior of our employees, and so on and so forth. Number three is about deploying capital. So we had made a serious commitment about that. And for example, in impactful startups, we're partners in Hub 71. We managed by 2020 to deploy $1.2 billion in 200 startups that created 9,000 jobs within UAE, which is great. So we do contribution into the GDP as well. We support startups to have an impactful, way of improving the future and so on. We are also partners in G42, which is a visionary artificial intelligence platform that wants to do better for the future with a lot of focus on health sector. We had also invested in ACX, which is the first regulated carbon trading platform, sits in Abu Dhabi Global Market, and also provides and promotes carbon credits, which could be some sort of solution for climate change. We had also tried to diversify our geographies and economies by building partnerships and investment overseas. For example, we aligned with BlackRock last year to invest in Tata Renewable in India, another $500 million. We bought 100% of Skyborn. It's also renewable energy in Germany and so on. Masdar again, Mohammed mentioned, that investment is going towards the 100 gigawatt, and that's a commitment we made to our leadership and the international community. Today, out of the 100, we have 20 gigawatt capacity commissioned and also under construction. And the last way of executing the strategy is building the right collaboration and partnerships with our peers, financial institutions, and companies, large companies, and especially industrial companies, so we can tap on their innovative centers, R&D, know-how, and so on. For example, AGA sits on the way. If anyone of you will take the road back to Abu Dhabi tonight, please watch out on the right side, EGA. This is the largest, probably industrial company after ADNOC in UAE. They produce 2.7 million tonnage of aluminium worldwide, and it's an excellent 50-50 partnership with Investment Corporation of Dubai. Lately, they managed to produce the first green aluminium in the world using some solar electricity from DEWA and EWIC. And this green aluminium has been exported and used in BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and some of it also with special treatment has been also tested by Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. So we have so many, I mean, Joe, the list does not end. We are on track. So I'm glad that we
You see the clock at 00, so I don't think we have time to list them all. Thank you for the great examples, and I think we'll look it up, AGA, especially if they do green aluminum for now. Mohammed, we don't have much time, but do you want to say anything about the, what is it called? I wanted the blended finance. Do you want to just clarify a bit more on blended finance for our audience and myself? I mean, I didn't hear about it before, but to me, it's something new.
Well,
in
back
2 minutes,
to
if you have
Liazia's
time.
point around EGA and the BMW, they have the car is somewhere here. It's either here or in the green zone, the i7.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing car. It is in Dubai, absolutely. The one point before I get into blended finance, it's not going to take more than 2 minutes, the whole of it. Look, Liazia spoke about all the initiatives that they have in place, right? And the renewables, the emission which went down to 16%, and the target to go to a single digit. All of that needs to be captured under, a report, which is their sustainability report. And this is what we do, right? We help a company or a sovereign wealth fund like Mubadala to capture all of that, or ADNOC, or their peers, right, to capture all of that, because so many corporates operating here in the UAE, they do a lot in this space, right, especially in the S and the G, right, the E to be assessed, but all of that needs to be captured, and they need to be rewarded. What do I mean by that? By providing them financing, which are ESG-linked, sustainability-linked. If you achieve certain KPIs, right, then you will have incentives from, the interest rate impact and all of that.
To interrupt you, sorry, but the platform that she mentioned, the platform for carbon credit that she mentioned that Mubadala has announced recently, is that something that could be traded and that could be benefiting companies?
Definitely, this will offset their total, emission target.
Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, Mohammed.
Especially in aviation, because jet fuel, is much cheaper than SAF, sustainable aviation.
Correct.
And for, airlines companies to comply, their only way out, gradually until they get there, because also there is limited capacity of what could be available in the market to, secure takeoff agreements, is to buy, credit, carbon credit.
And the platform is open for UAE and external?
It's
or
international.
Just okay, international. Okay, thank you.
Quickly on the blended finance,
Yep.
it's a partnership between the private and the public side of the business, right? Whether they are equity providers or debt providers, to support projects which are in the green space. Example, if you have $10 million of financing needed, so you will see asset managers, private equities, a bank like HSBC, multilateral bank, The reason why you need all of them, this is to scale up the financing requirement in this space. There are lots of issues, right? The issues to do with the not having standards, proper standards in place every time there is a new project to be taken to that bankability stage. You have to start the work from the scratch. That's why it takes you 12 to 18 months. So our request from all the governments is actually to work on, uniforming those standards, similar to if you want to get a mortgage tomorrow, you'll go to your bank and you'll get the mortgage. But if you want a solar plant, you should be able to go to, it should be an off-the-shelf sort of, standard, and for all the banks to follow, not to take 12 to 18 months to achieve the bankability stage.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. I would like everybody to give a round of applause to our experts today. I hope you got some insights, and thank you for coming again.